evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?
Welcome back to the Denver Broncos franchise on Madden 22. I'm your host, longtime listener. Be sure to drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and comment below. It's strategy time for the AFC Championship, and we are not going to worry about the pass, even though Kaepernick had a big day against the Bengals last week. It's going to be snowy conditions, and they're a better running team than they are passing, so that's that. Now, defensively, I think their weakness is their ability to stop the run. And considering how well we were able to run and get to the edge and make plays that way last week, we are going to stick with the idea of running to the outside. Let's try and get an interception, get a bunch of first downs, run for 150 yards. And I actually like the idea of trying to just limit them to less than 4 yards a carry. If they're anything, why is it not going? Oh, it's just delayed. If they're anything like the Steelers in real life, at least in the current Steelers, their offensive line is just not that good. So I think we can limit Najee Harris, maybe get after Colin Kaepernick a little bit, and cause some problems for them. Now, we should have a bunch of player upgrades because of the XP bonuses we got, and it looks like we do. So Daquan Burgess is now getting to where, as a physical receiver on the outside, I think he might be able to start seeing some playing time within the next year or two. He's not quite there. He's kind of in a spot where if there's an injury and we're going 4 wide, he's going to be on the field. But he's still probably like our 5th option at wideout. So Gardner Minshew. Let's go with improviser for the scheme fit. Brian Meander. So this is the guy that I think we drafted like late in the draft, and he's still pretty bad against pass blocking or whatever. But he's now, with that upgrade, into the 60s on everything and mid 60s overall, to where in the event of an injury, if he has to play for a game or two, we're not dead. I mean, he's not going to be very good, especially if he's lined up against a really good defensive end, but he's all right. Ronald Darby is getting up there in age, and I don't even know if he's coming back next year. How old is he? Yeah, he'll be 30. He's still pretty good, but he's starting to regress. At that position, that's just going to happen. DJ Jones hasn't really done much for us this year, and I think it's because he's getting less playing time than he has in the past. With Spencer Johnston getting the lion's share of the reps. Quinn Miners is starting to get pretty good. And really, our interior line is starting to get pretty good. Trey Stevenson, I like that he's getting now up into the high 60s or 70s, although there's a temporary -4 there. What the heck is that about? -4, that's a big deal. Oh, it's probably because it's snowy conditions. Corey Bryant. See, he's now good enough where he's probably our dime back. Let's emphasize zone coverage because that's what he's going to do a lot of, and that's his weakest asset right now. But next year, he's probably our dime back. So I wonder why the snowy conditions don't affect everybody. They only affect running backs. Like here's Javian Hawkins, also -4, and he's actually not that bad for a guy that we never use. If somebody in front of him were to get injured or let go, like Tariq Cohen, we'd be okay. So, in fact, I think Tariq Cohen is gone at the end of this year, and that's where Stevenson just becomes our number 2, Hawkins the number 3, and we don't really have to address that, with the exception of maybe trying to go and draft somebody if we can find a stud, but that's that. Alright, so we've got training complete, upgrades complete, we've set our strategy. We are ready to advance to the next week and cross your fingers and hope for a W to get us to the Super Bowl. and we get freaking blanked. 19-0, guys. I mean, you gotta be kidding me with this. Shut out. I mean, both offenses were really bad. We only turned it over once, and the passing game wasn't that bad, but they just did not let us run the ball. 52 yards on the ground. That's embarrassing. Kaepernick was nothing special, but his QB rating was good because he didn't turn the ball over. He was 17 for 24. That's not that bad. Brett Morris was not at his best. 19 for 34, 212 yards passing. No touchdowns, obviously. He was picked off once and sacked 5 times. But when you don't run the ball very well, like why did Javonte Williams only get 7 carries? He wasn't even that bad. What the heck? If we're only down, like first quarter, nothing. Second quarter, they get out to a 10-0 lead. Like, we still have half the game to try and get ourselves back into it. Why did we just abandon the run game? There's no sense even really looking at this. Cortland Sutton had a nice day. Nobody else did crap. This is frustrating because this is a team we could have beat to get to the Super Bowl, and we fall short. Look at all the sacks. Hayward had a couple. So Hayward, who would he have been lined up against? That would have been like Bowles at left tackle. So I don't know what that's about. James Webster was pretty good. TJ Watt, he's going to get sacks. So they got a safety making a sack. Who had the interception? Probably Fitzpatrick. No, Tavon Young. Well, we came up short for the third year in a row. But that one stings. I mean, a loss I can stomach, but getting shut out at home and to do so because you couldn't run the ball against the Steelers. Well, actually, you wouldn't run the ball against the Steelers. That's an issue. We got to fire our offensive coordinator after a game like that. Not really, though, because it doesn't matter. Alright, so that one, it hurts. We lost. Season over, and now it's time for the postseason. So we're only about probably 10 minutes into the episode at this point, so we basically have about a half hour to try and, well, really, I'd like to have the episode be somewhere in the neighborhood of an hour, considering we've got a lot to get through in the postseason. But I think we can pull it off. So we've got 25 staff points to spend, and then we can pretty much just sim to where we're ready to start like renegotiating contracts and such. We do have some player upgrades. Brett Morris got one. So he is turning into a decent QB. We're going to continue to go with the scheme fit. Because I like having him able to throw under pressure. And that's the one that improviser does help. Throwing on the run, I don't do it a lot, but he seems to do it pretty well anyway. Alright, so 25 staff points is enough to get us the last one in the head coach tree right here. Or did we already get that? No, we didn't, but here it is. Boom, 20 points. Now our QBs are getting 20% extra XP in training, so that's good. And we should now be ready to go ahead and burn through to the postseason. Now the Pro Bowl, I believe, so we got a contract extension. That's good. Let's look at staff moves just real quick. to see if anybody... See, what I have not seen yet is... it doesn't show a lot of hirings. So a bunch of people get fired, but then it doesn't always show you who got hired. And that's kind of what I want to see is, like, did anybody on our team get hired, out from under us or whatever. I've yet to see it, so maybe it just doesn't happen. But that's something that you would think would happen. Like, let's say you're just, creating a dynasty, and you're doing it because you've got a dominant defense or whatever. Somebody's going to hire your defensive coordinator away from you and make him a head coach. Like, it's just going to happen. So Will McPherson, what I should probably be doing with him is emphasizing his pass coverage. Like, that's a good upgrade right there, because he's going to get a pass coverage boost anyway. In fact, I think he got 2 pass coverage there. But there is a strong possibility that if he remains a normal dev trait, we move him to outside linebacker if we can find a stud middle linebacker. Because our team is finally getting to the point where I feel like we can how about Cowboys and Steelers for the Super Bowl? That's a pretty good set of storied franchises right there. Come on, let's go Steelers. I want to see them pull it off. Heck yeah! So at least we lost to the eventual Super Bowl champs. All right. I don't think we need to do anything here. So let's go to where we are due to resign players. And something that I noticed is when you get to this week where it's, you're supposed to have one last chance to re-sign guys, nothing shows up on this list where you could hypothetically re-sign. But if you go to manage roster, you can go here, and if there were guys that you were supposed to renegotiate with during the season and you decided not to, or you tried but failed, you can come here and franchise tag some guys. Now, if you see here, we're losing Darby at corner, Cohen at halfback, Glasgow at right guard, Harris at right end, Kaiser at middle linebacker, Weatherly at left outside linebacker, and that's about the first position where we might need to backfill with somebody who's decent. But I don't even think we really need to get anybody that's all that good, because we never use Weatherly anyway. We'll need a third string tight end, a backup tackle, and a depth D tackle. So we're losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys. And I don't really feel like any of them are going to hurt that much, with maybe the exception of Darby at corner, because I don't think we're going to improve at that position knowing what we know right now. Unless we can go find somebody in free agency or in the draft. So I don't even really remember what we emphasized in our scouting during the season, because I do feel like we've kind of gotten to the point where we're okay at just about every position, and we don't necessarily have huge concerns with age. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go to the managed roster and look at who we have now that that re-signing period is over, and everybody that we were going to lose is now gone off of the roster. And what we're going to do, let me grab my phone, because here's where I need to make a list of who all, or what positions on the roster we need to address. So, pull up a notepad real quick. Alright, so we're good at QB, both starter and backup. Halfback, we're actually okay. I am totally fine with Javonte Williams getting the lion's share of the workload and Stevenson being a solid backup. So that's a good mix right there. We're good at fullback. Wide receiver, we are good. We've got 6 and 3 that are, 2 that are really good, 1 that's pretty good, and then this is the year that I think Burgess maybe breaks through. But Hamler is still probably better as a slot guy. I mean, he's got crazy good speed. So he's the kind of guy that if I can get him open on a slant route over the middle when we go 4 wide, it's dangerous. However, I could hypothetically argue that we're better in a 4 wide scenario with Judy and Sutton in the slot and then Patrick and Burgess on the outside running go routes. But we'll have to see. So we do need a third tight end. Not a big deal. We're okay at left tackle, but Grant Bowles is now 32 years old. And let's look at his contract because this could be a concern here. And he's due for free agency. So I'm going to say left tackle of the future. Because that's not something we need to address this year, but it's on the horizon. We are good at left guard, good at center. We need a second string right guard. He might be in the last year of his contract. And that tells me, yeah. So, right tackle of the future. So we probably need to draft a tackle. Or somehow get our hands on a stud, like 24 or 5-year-old tackle. But we're not going to do that through free agency. They're just not old enough with enough experience to be free agents. We'd have to trade for one, and I don't think I want to do that. Draymond Jones is doing a fine job for us at left end. We're going to just roll with that for right now. We need a backup right end. So that's that. We need a D tackle 3 and 4. We're going to say as a question mark because we don't necessarily need 4 because we run a 3-4 anyway. There's usually only one on the field. All right, so here is where, like, Weatherly is gone, and Malik Reed is just kind of like okay. So we're going to say left outside linebacker, either 1 or 2. Because we're looking for somebody who's good enough that they could probably play within the next year or two. Because if I look at his contract, I'll bet you he's coming up on free agency. We got him for 2 years, so that's not a serious priority, but it's something we know is going to be necessary before long. We're okay at middle linebacker. These two are starting to get up there in age a little bit, but Josie Joel played pretty well for us last year. I could hypothetically move one of these guys to outside linebacker. But I like having 4 middle linebackers in a 4-3 or 3-4. We're okay at right outside linebacker as well. Corner. OJ Mudia is actually a pretty good, number 2 guy. He's not the greatest, but he's all right at an 80 overall. Nick Nelson, 27 years old. We're not going to get much more out of him. And then Corey Bryant, as it stands right now, would be our dime back. I think we need to try and go find a corner. So let's call it like corner 3 or 4. Because basically if I can get somebody that's as good as one of these two-ish, I think we just drop Nick Nelson down the depth chart and give Corey Bryant the starting position to get him some experience because he's going to continue to get better pretty quickly. I want to look at Justin Simmons' contract so I know when he is due for free agency because he's got to be getting close too. He is due for free agency at the end of this season, and he's probably going to be expensive for us to try and re-sign. But like as it stands right now, he's still really good, and we've got a good backup. Stearns is not a guy that I would want to be the starter next year, but maybe like free safety is our priority in the draft next year or in free agency. Whoops, wrong button. So we'll just let that go for now. And then we still are in kind of the same boat here at strong safety because I believe we only have Willis for one more season. We might have him for 2. Let's actually look at it. I don't remember how long we signed him for. Yeah, we got him for 2 more years. That's nice because we can stagger the safety situations. And then we're still good in special teams. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then at least 1 D tackle would make it 8, maybe 9 guys that we got to go and try and find. So let's see what's available in free agency. And make some offers here. So tight end 3, we might try to draft. In fact, oh man. See, like, I don't need anybody who comes in right away and is a starter. So I think the smart thing to do would be to use that first and second pick on a corner and tackle in whichever order makes the most sense. Tackle is something that usually is hard to get somebody who is like a franchise guy for a long time if you don't take him in the first round. So we'll take a look at that. But let's just see if there's anything at tackle that interests me. 27 years old, 25 years old. If I go and get a guy like this, he's going to be the 3rd string guy. If he's like a 65 at blocking or better, it's a sure fit. 61. You know what, though? Just so I don't have to think about tight end for a while, we're going to make this guy an offer. It's not going to be anything super impressive, but I'll bet you he'll take it. Yeah, 79 overall. We're probably going to get him locked up. And now I think what I will do is go, let's look at the tackle positions just out of curiosity. Like, see, we're not going to find anybody. See, he's 25, but a normal dev trait, if he was a star dev trait, we would go after him pretty aggressively, just so I wouldn't have to think about left tackle for a while. Because he wouldn't play this year, he would just get a little bit better, and then I'd start him next year. So now that I know we don't need to do that, let's go see if we can find a backup right guard that we need to bring in. I like this guy. He's 29, though. Plays for the Raiders in real life. How about Herbig? 26 years old. He's not that great, but he's going to be a backup, so we don't need him to be that great. He's a 69 overall, and he's decent across the board as far as pass protection and everything. So let's give him a 2-year offer. I'm not super worried about the money because he's not asking for much. Boom. Pretty sure we're going to get him lined up. And now look at right tackle just out of curiosity, but like this guy too. If he was a star dev trait, we might try and snatch him up, but I don't think we need to do that. So let's go ahead and wait. I only have 1 right tackle, so I need a backup right tackle. So we're going to be drafting one anyway. We're probably going to be drafting 2. So I'm not going to do that unless it's a guy that I really want on the team. Here's what we're going to do for our backup, or our depth D tackle. I'm actually going to look down this list for guys that are like big body ends that we might be able to use as a D tackle, just out of curiosity, like this dude, but he's 30 years old. I'm looking for somebody in their early 20s. He's 305 pounds. 25 years old, 72 overall, but he's got 2 bids. Like I don't need to deal with that for a depth chart filler. Excuse me. How about Byron Cowart? No bids. He's 300 pounds, a run-stopping type. I can sign him to like a 2-year deal, and we can go and look for another defensive tackle and see if we can find one. But it's not like critical. He's asking way too much money, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, that's still a pretty decent offer. So that's D-tackle. Let's go with that for right now. Because that is 3 of the 9 that we needed to try and figure out this offseason. So I'm happy with that at the moment. Let's advance and just see if we got those guys. I'm not going to show you a ton of the scouting process because it's just kind of monotonous and you end up looking at a bunch of guys that just don't matter that much. What we'll do is when we get into the draft, I'll kind of show you some of the guys that we've locked in on as far as who's on our board, and then we'll go from there. But all right, so we got Herbig. Excuse me. So the right guard situation is figured out. Now I want to look and see why did these other 2 guys not sign? Is it because they have other offers, or is it because they are... Yeah, they're just holdouts. So that's fine. We'll just advance another week and I'll bet you we get them. So let's do that. I don't think there's anything else that I need to do here. We'll go look at the pro day and all that stuff off screen because again, I don't think that's something that you guys necessarily want to see except for the players that we're really leaning toward. Let's get 2 more signings here. Yeah, so we got our tight end 3 and we got our D tackle 3/4. So we could maybe consider drafting another defensive tackle maybe late in the draft. But priorities for right now in terms of this season's actually, we're going to go ahead and save this because we got to look at the private workouts. Priorities for this draft, I think left tackle or right tackle has to be a priority. Corner is also up there. So it's going to kind of depend on the draft class to see who's deep and which positions are deep, because if we can get a corner in the 2nd round, then that kind of makes our decision a little bit easier. But what we need to do here is let's look at the prospects and find who we think. See, there's 3 tackles, and I only have a heart next to that guy. What's up with that? Let's look at the top 2. Maybe because I didn't think I would be able to get the other 2. So, B awareness, B run blocking. He's not the strongest, but he does have pretty good top-end speed, but his agility is not even really that great. Now, those are all impressive, so he's probably a guy that's got, a pretty good overall, but his physicals, he's going to have good, like, blocking ratings or whatever, but his physicals are not that good. This guy can't run block at all, and he's not very strong. He's quick, so he'll be good in pass protection, but he's probably going to have bad pass block power as well. I don't think that's a guy that we would want to use our 1st round pick on. The good news is this guy is 3rd down the list, so he's probably 3rd to come off the board. And 3 Bs there is pretty solid. Strength, again, a concern, but he's got really good quickness and agility, so we might be able to overlook that a little bit, but that's definitely a concern. And I'm a little bit concerned about the D for stamina because maybe the injury rating kind of goes along with that. But he's a maybe. So I'm not going to do this too much longer because I don't want the episode to be super long. This guy can't run block. C awareness concerns me. His physicals are not very impressive, so that's a hard no. So far, there's just one tackle on the board that we kind of have our eye on. Let's look at these two guys and see if either of them. C awareness. His physicals are pretty good across the board. He's injury prone. That's a hard no. So there are a few tackles, as you can see, that we have highlighted down there. There's a handful here. B for pass blocking. Physicals are all pretty good, including strength. 35 reps at the combine, 33 at pro day. And then he's like top 10 in most of the other categories, which is, tells me he's fairly athletic. And those are all awesome. So Resign McMillan would be our #1 priority right now if we can get him. We'll look at this guy just in case. C awareness. Physicals are pretty good. And he's got some A's and C's there, which aren't bad. It's acceptable. So maybe he's there in the second round as an option. I'm actually going to look at these next few guys because you know what? I've got hearts on all of them. We must have already done this with our mid-season recap. So we don't need to do this at all. We kind of know the guys that we would be leaning toward. So let's say McMillan. And then let's look at corner real quick. There's only a few. Let's check this guy out because if he's there in the second round, he might be the guy. He's got C for both man and zone coverage, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. And he's got very good physicals. He's quick and has pretty good strength and top end speed. So, and all C's are better here. With a B awareness, I think this guy could be a pretty good player if we can get him in the second round. Probably has a hidden dev trait because of how athletically gifted he is. But I'm just kind of concerned about like who we can get when. This was another guy that I think we put some focus on. B for zone coverage, C for press. His physicals are actually pretty good. He's got really good quickness. The top end speed is okay. It's not great, but it's definitely acceptable. And then he's got like superhuman strength for a corner. And then those are all pretty impressive. The dude can tackle, he can block shed, good awareness, good zone coverage. I really like him, but for us to get him means we need to get a tackle in the second round instead of the first round, and I just don't know if that's going to be an option. So what I'm going to do is back out. We'll set our scouting targets or whatever for private workouts, and then we'll advance forward to the draft. Okay, so the three that we're going to focus on are the two corners that we looked at, and then the McMillan at right tackle. The thought process there being, like, I think McMillan is the priority at tackle because we need 2 tackles within the next couple of years, and that gives us one of them. And we already have Surtain and Ojemudia and Bryant at corner that we're okay there. So I'm hoping that second round corner is one that's good enough for us to maybe get in the second round and have a guy that we can use within the next year or two. So we'll have to see, but like I said, I think tackle needs to be the priority going into the draft. So now I think we are ready to go ahead and move on forward to the NFL draft. And we'll have to kind of see what shakes loose. But first, what I want to look at is the last mock draft that they are running right here. Because what I need to see is, like, will McMillan even be there by the time it's our turn to draft? Or do we need to trade up to get him, kind of thing. So let's look at this this mock draft number 5, and we're picking very late, which is a challenge. So there's a left tackle. Sampson at right tackle going 10th, and I think McMillan was the second one on the board there. So I don't think he's going to be there for us. Oh my goodness. He's there. So they have us taking Cassius Bowden. Oh, this is the year that there's that crazy good tight end class, isn't it? It is. I forgot about that. But with the issues that we have at other positions, I don't think we can afford that. Actually, I forgot to look at what corners came off the board. Because if there aren't a lot, that could bode well for us getting that guy in the second round. Like, I'm not seeing anybody. One corner taken by the time it's our turn to pick. So what we might need to consider doing is, like, right here, we draft the tackle. And since we don't know anything about what's going on after the first round, what I might do is, like, if I go to prospects, there was one corner taken. What I would probably consider doing here is, like, we go here. Broderick Borden, I think, could be a very good corner. He's got good zone coverage. The physicals are very impressive. And, like, he's got some positive things here with his ability to tackle. He's decent at play recognition and press coverage. He can shed blocks. He's got good awareness. I think that guy could be a really good cornerback. I don't know if he's worth trading up versus just waiting and taking Sammy Webster. He's not going to be as polished right away. There's no question about that. But his physicals are more impressive. And he's not really that bad in any of these things. So it's one of those where what I might do is, like, just let it go for a few picks in the second round. And if we think we can trade up to, like, 10th in the second round and get this guy, we do it. If he's gone in the first few picks in the second round, then we got to be really careful, because I don't know what's going to be available farther down here. These three guys, maybe we need to look at a little bit more closely. But I think Sammy Webster, if we can get him in the late second round, would be a steal. So that's the plan going in. Again, we need to just kind of be a little bit strategic about when we think we need to move up to get, what's his face at corner? Borden. But I think we're okay there. You know, we still need to go and look at other positions where we need depth, like the outside linebacker that we need. Because Malik Reed, he'll be okay this year, but we've got to have a heir to the throne at that position, and it might be something that we get through free agency, just because there might not be, a usable guy still available when it's our turn to pick. But let's get after the draft here, and we'll see how things shake loose. All right, so we have done a bunch of research, and it is time for the NFL draft. And now I'll walk you through some of our strategies as we go. But seeing what we've seen in the mock draft, I feel comfortable just go ahead and advancing to this first pick, and we are gonna take McMillan with the first pick of the draft here, the right tackle that I think, and we'll show you again what he brings to the table, but I think this guy could be a stud. Now, he might not be, like, ready to start right now, but he's got B awareness, B pass blocking. His physicals are pretty impressive. None of them are, like, elite or whatever, like best in the class, but they're all, like, acceptable for that position. And then here, it's all A's and B's, with the one exception being pass block finesse. But he's got B for pass block and pass block power, B injury, A stamina, A run block power. So this guy could be a really good power right tackle right out of the gates, and an acceptable pass blocker. So he's our #1 pick, and it's a hidden dev trait. Heck yeah! So he's 22 years old. Don't know exactly what his overall is going to be, but I'll bet you it's about a 73 or 74, maybe even higher. So let's now discuss what our strategy is going to be moving forward. So I've got it paused so that I can explain what we're thinking here. I went through the trade window and looked at teams that had cornerback listed as a team need. And there are 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. Not counting us, because we were one of them. And if we go to corner, one guy has come off the board. So there are basically 2 remaining that we are interested in. And who was it that drafted? I think it was the Rams. Weren't the Rams right ahead of us? Yeah. So we picked 30th. The Rams picked ahead of us. They're one of the teams that had one listed, and they picked one. So that leaves basically 5 teams that we kind of need to worry about potentially taking a corner. And starting in order of when they pick, the Lions will pick first in the 2nd round. The 49ers pick 8th. The Dolphins pick 11th. And then Carolina picks 23rd. The Bengals pick 28th. Now, the fact that you've got the Lions, 49ers, and Dolphins all up there around the top 10 in this 2nd round, chances are at least 2 of them are taking corners. Now, Miami, it's like it was the last need on their list, but if there's a really good corner there, I don't want to take the chance that they just take him just because he's the best player available. So what my plan is we're going to go and see what Detroit does first. If they don't take a corner, we can keep waiting. If they do take a corner, I think we need to trade up to at least that San Francisco position at 8th to try and get Sammy Webster, because I'm pretty sure Broderick Borden will be the next one off the board. Then my fear is that people realize that Webster is better than this guy, and they take him. Because if we look at Webster's, scouting report, the key ratings have a little bit of room for improvement, but it's the physicals that will impress people, because the guy is just a straight-up athlete. So we could have another Corey Bryant right there. And if he's a good kick returner, maybe we can use him for that. And that's how you get him reps early in his career. But he's got B for awareness, and then C or better for pretty much everything else that we at least know about. So I think he's a decent pick for us if we can get him early in the 2nd round. Late in the 2nd round would be great, but I think at minimum we would probably have to trade up ahead of Miami, maybe ahead of Carolina if we got super lucky, but I don't want to press the luck. So what we're going to do is move forward 1 pick at a time and see what happens with draft picks moving forward. And again, it starts with Detroit when we start to get worried about who's coming off the board. So wide receiver to the Cowboys, middle linebacker to the Steelers, and now is where we need to cross our fingers that we don't see corners.
The Raiders on the clock now. What direction
will they go? So they took Borden, and again, I'm pretty confident that nobody before San Francisco is going to take a corner. So what we're going to do is advance to their pick.
Okay, here we go. The Cardinals
1 pick at a time, because if that corner does come off the
Here we
board,
go.
it
The
changes
Jets
our
now on the
strategy
clock.
a lot. But if that corner is still there,
Here we go. The Colts
we
now on
trade
the
up to
clock.
get him.
It's the Saints now on the clock.
So it's the Saints. And realistically, if I think about this,
All right, the Bears are
how
now on
this
the
would
clock.
play out in real life is I would probably have to trade the Bears. Because if I try to trade the 49ers, they're going to put 2 and 2 together and realize that I want that corner that they want, and they wouldn't do that. So now that I know that that corner is still there and the 49ers are up next, we are going to come in here and we're going to trade the Bears to try and get their second round pick from them. So now we're probably going to, I assume, our second round pick will be in there. Now, do we have any players that we can trade away? What about, like, Hamler? What if I use him as a throw-in? Because if I get rid of him, that gets Burgess the chance to see more playing time, and I kind of like that idea. Let's do that. He's a pretty good wideout. He's young. So let's see if they will accept this for their second round pick. They actually really like Hamler, which bodes well for this, because now what I think I can do, knowing that they really like him, is, yeah, I want that second round pick, and I want, like, next year. Well, actually, hang on a second. Let's just look at a couple of positions here, just out of curiosity. Not tackle. So I want to look at the defensive end positions. If they've got somebody, how about this guy, 76? Let's look at his star dev trait. I don't think they would go for this. I'm going to try it just out of curiosity because, oh man, would this be awesome. If they think that Hamler is more valuable than this Harold, I doubt it, but we're going to give it a try. Oh my gosh! That's so close that I'm going to throw in like a 6th round pick or something, and I'll bet you we get this done. So they apparently are really big on Hamler. So let's go back to our draft picks, and I probably don't need this year's 7th round pick. Let's see if they take this.
Well,
Oh,
hold on
this
a
be
second
awesome.
now. It appears a different
Boom!
team is filling out
That
the
is
spot right now.
massive, guys!
Could mean only one thing,
Because
people.
now
They just traded the pick.
I don't need to worry about defensive tackle this year. I mean, I could go and try and find one if I think there's a steal, because we heavily scouted a lot of them. But what this might do is free up my ability to actually go and get one of those tight ends that I think are studs if somebody's there deeper down in the draft when I don't see somebody else that I want. So now I don't need a D tackle. Make note of that. So we got our right tackle. And with that trade, we will get a corner. And then I don't need the D tackle anymore. This is freaking shaping up to be a fantastic draft. If this guy gives me a star dev trait, I mean, I might actually jump up in the air from excitement. Especially if he's like a 73, to where I can use him kind of right away. I really like this guy, if you remember. Ryan Gentry had elite everything on the physicals. Runs a good deep route. Although those physicals actually aren't as impressive. He was all like great to elite, but it turns out just a couple of them ended up being on the elite side of things. I mean, I'm not going to draft him, but I think this guy could be at least a star dev trait, if not superstar, given how physically gifted he is. All right, let's go get our cornerback. Who was it? Webster? Sammy Webster, my man. Come on, give me the star dev trait. Those physicals right there are screaming star dev trait.
The 49ers now on the clock.
All right, it's hidden, which is good enough. So it's at least a star, probably star. But that's 2 for 2 on the draft picks, and that D tackle we got is basically like a third really good draft pick because he's not very old. So we'll have him for a while. All right, so I still need a backup right end, an outside linebacker, and another tackle. So let's skip forward, and we'll see what's there. Now, I
On the clock
hope
now, it's the Broncos, and time is ticking.
I've really scouted this out, and the guy that I think we really want here, I will show you, because we could have another steal on our hands if he's still there. I think it's here. No. Here. This dude right here. So we'll look at John Wayne just because we put a heart on him, but I think it was basically because of his name. C impact block. Nothing special. His physicals are actually pretty good. I don't like seeing an F anywhere. That just tells me that you're going to have weaknesses, and we don't want that. Now, this dude right here, Lindsey Green, B awareness, which I really like. His physicals are very impressive for a guy that is projected as a day 3 guy. And then here's where it gets even better. Look at this. He's all A's and B's. Like, this is, I think, a slam dunk. We're picking for a backup left tackle in the 3rd round, late 3rd round, and I think this guy is more like a 2nd or 1st round talent. We're going to take him. Look at this! Another hidden dev. Oh my god. We're 3 for 3. So now, left tackle, that could come off the board. So we need a right end and a left outside linebacker. And I don't really know what all is going to be here. But we could get busts. If those guys are anywhere near a 70 for their overall, we absolutely just crushed this draft. We are the winners, hands down. Especially considering we also got a good young left or defensive tackle through that trade. All right. So what did I say we still need? A defensive end and a left outside linebacker, or just an outside linebacker in general. So let's look at end. We don't have a heart on anybody, then we're not looking at them. So Tony Lynch. What do you got for me, dude? C for power moves. He's only 257 pounds. This is not the kind of guy that we really want for our 3-4, but he does have really good physicals, and the strength is actually not bad. That's a maybe. Again, he's a little bit undersized for a 3-4. So that's the issue with him. Even this guy is probably a little bit undersized, but let's see what he's got. D block shedding is a little bit of an issue. He can tackle. Pretty good physicals, especially at the combine. He didn't do quite so well strength-wise at the pro day. Those aren't bad, but that's a maybe. You know, we're in the late 4th round here, so we got to keep that in mind. Was there anybody else down here? No. I scouted pretty deep on all the positions that we're looking at. All right. Maze. What do you got for me, Broseph? Don't know any of the key ratings. The physicals are pretty good. He's got like linebacker type 40-yard dash. The quickness is there. The strength is okay. He did better on the bench reps at the pro day. And the skills are actually, I like the A awareness or B awareness. So that's a maybe. And then last but not least, I don't think there was anybody else down here. So let's look at Nolan Bennett. Projected as an undrafted free agent, so we might actually be able to wait on both of these guys. D block shedding makes me a little bit nervous. He can tackle. He's got good strength as well. The speed is, all those physicals are actually not that bad. I don't necessarily care for the cone drill, but I would put Mays ahead of him based on what we've seen right there. So Mays, but I think we can get him in the 5th round, seeing as how there's 3 guys ahead of him, and if we don't get him, I'd be okay taking Bennett. Now let's look at defensive tackle, simply because if there's somebody that has the quickness that we could maybe just put at defensive end instead, we would do that. I don't mind having a big body out there as long as they're still pretty quick. Like, this is not the guy. I really like this guy's physicals, but for a defensive tackle, not for a defensive end. So that's a no. And then LaFleur. What you got, LaFleur? I think B block shedding, C finesse moves. He is 394 pounds. Good gracious. But he's not very strong. How is he that fast and weigh 394 pounds? That's ridiculous. He does have pretty decent physicals, but for as big as he is, he's pretty soft if he's not leading in bench reps. When he's got everybody, he's got 100 pounds on pretty much everybody in the draft. I feel like there was somebody way down here, but I guess not. Yeah, there was. I had put a... I feel like I put a heart on somebody named Branch. Where are they? I don't see them. They may have already gotten drafted, and they, I think, were an undrafted free agent. They were like down here somewhere, and if they already got taken, then they were absolutely a hidden gem. All right, Josh Ward, outside linebacker. So we've got a couple of possible options at defensive end, but neither of them are guys that I feel like we need to draft this round. I think we can wait. This guy's got B for pursuit. He's got pretty good top-end speed. The strength is maybe a little bit of an issue. But the physicals are, I guess, acceptable. I don't like that he's not very strong, though, at linebacker. Play recognition is okay. Finesse moves, awareness. That's actually, he's a decent option there. The only thing that really concerns me is his strength. And there's nobody else there. Let's actually look at middle linebacker. Well, I don't think I scouted them. I don't even know. Okay, I did scout right outside linebacker. How about Stringer? What you got, dude? B pursuit. He's got better strength. He's got better physicals. Period. I'm not crazy about the finesse moves. I think this is the guy. He's got really good physicals for an outside linebacker, although at the pro day he wasn't all that impressive with his bench reps. Let's call that a maybe, and let's go look at middle linebackers in case there is somebody there that's a steal, and I can, maybe move like Josie Jewell out to outside linebacker instead of having him at middle linebacker as the second middle. Nope, 2 Fs. Get out of here. Marcus Morrison. 2 Ds. Get out of here. Key ratings, you better be at least a C or have crazy good physicals and only like 1 D. Like that, I can live with that if you have crazy good physicals. Those aren't bad, but that I think I'm going to pass on. If I knew that he had like A for awareness, maybe, but I don't know that. All right, we'll go down a couple of more here. D and D, that's a no. I think we've got our pick here. Ladarius Watts, F for pursuit. All right, who did we say? Actually, let's look at Bubba Van Buren here. We do have a heart on this guy. C, block shedding. B, tackling. He's strong, fat. Yeah, this is our guy. D, awareness. I don't know, guys. You know what, though? I think this is the idea here is if I take this guy, he's got really good physicals. Maybe we get lucky and get a hidden dev trait. And if we do, we stick him at depth at the middle linebacker position. Let's just do it. We put him at middle linebacker. Yeah, so either way, I think he goes like at the bottom of the depth chart at middle linebacker. And then we'll move Josie Jewell outside because I think he's a natural outside linebacker anyway. So that's that. Now in the next... Wait, I don't have a 5th round pick. And I really wanted to get one of those defensive ends. You know what? I don't care. We're talking 5th or 6th round here, and they're just depth guys anyway. Let's just this draft is already a win. So we're hoping that Mays is here at defensive end, right end to be specific. We don't even have a 7th. That's right. We traded like a 1st, a 5th, and a 7th to move up last year, I think. So, where are we going? Right end. Bennett is there. Hayes is gone. So, what do we have here? I don't like the D for block shedding. The physicals are really impressive, though. So, let's just take him and move along. Kind of hoping for a hidden dev trait there, just because of his physicals, but... Alright, so let's wrap things up here, and we'll get a look at the recap of who all we got. And, man, those top 3 picks that we made could be the cream of the crop with this year's draft class when you put them all together. So let's see what we landed here. We're looking for mid-70s or better on at least one of these guys. Come on. All right, so McMillan is a 72 overall. Let's actually look at his card here. He's not that great in pass protection, which is a little bit disappointing. But for a rookie with a hidden dev trait to already be that good, I'm happy with that. Now, this is freaking awesome. If I had to pick one of these guys to be about a 75 overall, it would be this guy. Because now I can play him. He's already ready to be like our nickel corner. Not even a dime back. Like, he's that good. I am thrilled with that pick. And I'm really glad that we didn't let him slip away. That was a good decision, I feel like, to trade up and get him. Then Lindsey Green, I mean, this guy is actually better, even though his 71 overall is lower than McMillan. He is more well-rounded to where I would start him over McMillan if I had the choice right now. But I think what I will actually do, either way, neither of them are starting this year, so we just put one at left tackle. I'll probably put Green at left tackle, McMillan at right tackle, because his pass protection is better, and I worry about the blind side, so that's the strategy there. Van Buren, a 69 overall, is actually not as bad as I was going to guess with a late 4th round pick. So that's pretty good. And then Bennett, a 66 overall. in the late 6th round is also pretty darn good. So we only ended up making 5 picks, but boy did we hit the jackpot with, several of them. So a good class for the Broncos this year, and I think that might be an understatement. Especially, don't forget, we also managed to land a defensive tackle that could help us for quite some time. So what we need to do, I guess, just before we wrap things up is let's now go in and look at the roster, because there are a couple of guys that we'll need to move from like left to right or whatever. Probably not a lot, though. So we're good at QB still. Now, the only issue here is that if anybody gets hurt, we got to go find a fourth body, which we might go do just to do it and get it over with. But we don't need anything special there. I'm happy with what we've got going on here. And we kind of talked about the dynamic with these two being our physical deep route, 50-50 ball guys on the outside, and then we move these two to the slot when we go 4 wide, and man, will we be dangerous. All right. Tight end, we're still in good shape for a while. These guys all still pretty young. That's good. Now, left tackle, there's Bowles with Meander backing him up, but Meander is never going to see the field for this team. Hang on, my boss is calling. All right. So, all right, left guard, Moody is the starter and will be for a while. We've got a solid backup there for now as well. Cushenberry and Wilkins at center. We're good at right guard for a little while. Now here is where we need to just basically decide which one of these guys we're going to move. And I think Green is the smarter choice to move to left tackle. Simply because he's better at pass blocking. And if that's the case, he's essentially the guy that protects the blind side of the quarterback. And that's more important on that side of the O-line. Now, we may change that eventually. If it turns out that, like, this guy is a star dev trait and McMillan is a superstar dev trait, then we flip-flop these guys. And the guy that's going to get better faster will be, the left tackle of the future is basically what that'll come down to. But we're good there for a while as well, which is awesome because we killed 2 birds with 1 stone this year as far as like getting, we wanted to get a left tackle of the future and a right tackle of the future. I would have been thrilled to just get 1. To get both is just insane. So huge, huge, huge win right there. Especially considering one of them was a 3rd round pick. All right, Draymond Jones and Ajim at left end. Kind of wish we could have done a little bit better addressing that situation long term, but it's not a big deal yet. Webster is going to be our starter for a while, so we'll just leave Bennett there as a backup, and we've got 2 really young defensive ends there that should be good for a while. Now here, this is another area where we improved because basically Johnston is the number 1 guy, but now we also have Harold, who's just 23 years old, star dev trait, and he's already 78 overall. So he's going to get the nod over Jones as the 2nd guy on the depth chart, and he could turn into a stud, and then we could have 2 pretty good defensive tackles on the roster. I need to move somebody to the left outside linebacker, and I'm thinking Josie Jewell. Although, let me maybe go with Kenny Young. I don't know that it matters too much. He's the better tackler. And what I'm thinking is if I move him out there, does he become the starter over Malik Reed? Like, what's going to happen here? Because if that's the case, then we've got basically, yeah, I think Kenny Young is going to be the starter there. He's a better tackler. I'm pretty sure he's actually better in pass coverage as well. So, and he's got better speed. I like having speed. Even though his agility's not the greatest, I think he could be a little bit better option for us right there. And Kenny Young played well for us when we had him as the starting middle linebacker a couple years ago. So now we're in pretty decent shape there. Van Buren, the rookie that we drafted, also, to the point where if we have to get him on the field, I don't feel like it's a devastating blow. He's not that bad for a late round pick. So that's cool. Corner, this is where like Nelson is now the odd man out. And now basically we've got a 24-year-old superstar, a 26-year-old, pretty good role player, and then we've got two young studs coming up through the ranks that could end up being really good. Because wasn't Bryant a star dev trait? Yeah. So that's good. Free safety we'll need to address this year. Strong safety I think we'll need to address next year. I think we had those staggered, which is nice. So that's that. That is a look at the roster for the 2024 Denver Broncos, and I think this team is very well positioned to have a really good season. Brett Morris a couple years into the league and has some experience now in the playoffs, and it honestly has kind of proven himself as a solid NFL quarterback already. So I like what this team gives us, and I think we could be really good. Actually, one more thing that we're going to do before we wrap up is we're going to go to the roster, free agents, and let's just go find a fourth halfback. I'm going to look for somebody that's like a power running back, because basically here's what would happen. If Javonte Williams gets hurt, then Stevenson becomes our regular running back, and then whoever we like, I think Jamal Williams is probably going to be the guy. Actually, I like Benny Snell. He's not only listed as a power back, he's kind of well balanced, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's fairly elusive as well. Not the greatest receiving back, but that's okay because that's not what we're going to use him for. Yeah, let's give him this 1-year deal. Jamal Williams is a little bit better overall, but he's also 29 to where he's probably going to regress this year anyway. So I think Benny Snell is the right pick there. I wouldn't have minded bringing Melvin Gordon back, but he's 31, and he's just probably not the same running back he used to be. But now we've got two power backs and two elusive backs on the roster to where if anybody gets injured, we've got somebody else ready to step up and fill that role. But that is going to do it for this episode. The next one is going to have, we'll just sim through the preseason, show you the results there, and then jump into the 2024 regular season. Looks like we're starting the year off at home against the Browns. So that'll be a tough matchup right out of the gates. But we'll see. We should be able to hopefully pick up a win in that one. But again, that'll do it for this episode. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment below, and we will see y'all next time.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?